Welcome to another episode of Classic Talks, where we subscribe to a next play mentality, engaging in crucial conversations, challenging each other to take our very next step, sharing common knowledge to improve common wealth, becoming a clearer version of ourselves so that we can embrace growth. We must accept the process so we can appreciate the outcome, one conversation at a time. I am Dr. Classic. Let's talk about it.
Saying like you got to understand, like, and don't get this twisted. I'm not a Donald Trump fan whatsoever. Okay. But the thing that people got to understand that he did is he had his own money. He was wealthy from the private sector before running for office. So it didn't matter if you lobbied with him. He didn't need you to lobby with him to raise money. You know what I'm saying? So he didn't owe any corporations or CEOs any favors. You dig what I'm saying? He ran the country like a business. He manifested a lot of hate and incited a lot of hate and divided us further on the main level. That's just who he is. It was a reflection of him. You know what I'm saying? And how he thinks and what he has no filter. He's not politically correct because he's not a politician.
Right.
You know, he's just a man with money that has his views, whether right or wrong, and he let them out on that platform. Period.
So let me agree with you because I'm not a Trump fan. You know that to be a factual and forever. But he was a gangster. Like Trump was gonna do what the hell he wants to do it when he wants to do it. You know, first
Fact.
president ever to be banned from social media because he gonna keep saying what the hell he want to say.
Facts.
Follow him. I think what he did was reckless as hell. I see that he pardoned all of his people, even pardoned, like you said, Lil Wayne and them. But it's one of them things where like you can't, that's just like being a landlord. We don't really respect slumlords. Trump is a slumlord as a president. He's not a good leader, but he gonna go make you the money by all means necessary. So it's like what's like we always say, these now this is a real time to say it. What's greater are the two evils? You know what I mean? What's the
Right.
better of the two evils? You want a slumlord in leadership, or you don't mind that to get the presidency, to get the money, or are you okay with the fact that he got to be removed because he's gonna drive the hate line way too thick? You and I are gonna be faced with way more Karens and Proud Boys than we ever should have to be faced with because he's making it okay.
You know what though? I'm thankful for it because without him, all that stuff would have stayed suppressed. Now it's out in the open. We know how people feel. We've had some change on a corporate level. People making diversity and inclusion movements. You know what I'm saying? So it had to come to the forefront for people to see what dire conditions we really are in as a country, how divided we really are.
Right.
Without him, that wouldn't have happened because everything would have went so political, so political, so political, and we're tired of that system. So he was the perfect disruptor, and now we know what we up against. You know what I'm saying? We know how people really feel. So it was a time and place for that.
Okay. And don't let me, we probably are saying the same thing on the fact that I'm glad that Trump got his run in office because we needed to see this happen too. Like this year had to happen. 2020 it was by design, if you ask me. And then his 4 years in office to be able to see that, listen, it don't have a color when it's wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like y'all make black bad. Black ain't bad. These characteristics that you talking about, they just in people.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna find it in blacks, you're gonna find it in whites, you're gonna find it in the Asians. It's just a
Mm-hmm.
set of characteristics that people have, their values, their belief, how they move. Money do a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things to people. So I think that as a country, we need to see it.
Part of what I believe that they were fighting for, and they did it the complete wrong way, but part of what that party stands for is the Constitution.
Okay.
Right to bear arms, freedom of speech, all the things that we were founded upon, even though we're three-fifths of a human, it really wasn't for us, um, according to the Constitution. But I do think we're going to see a tightening on gun control, probably an assault weapons ban, limiting of ammo. I think we're going down that route, and to me, that's scary. I think we're going down the route of let's perpetuate and exacerbate this COVID issue even more, so we can drown out more businesses,
Okay.
make people more reliant on government, so that they no longer have any say so. You know, it's like no, you're under their control versus us being individuals that say, okay, the government don't control us. We are capitalistic. We do what we want to do. We pay your taxes and hands off. You know what I'm saying? Now I feel like if they can crush the vast majority out of people out, you're only going to have the government the wealthy, and then everybody below that that's dependent upon the government for their basic needs being met. And that's the scary part that I don't want to see happen.
So you feel that Trump, Republican, being in office, Republican, I could just say Republican, don't even have to be Trump, means that we'll keep those laws intact. But switching over to the Biden ticket, Democrats, whoever it is, we are going to now lose some of what those pieces or components are and close more businesses, because that's been the fear that's been pumped into people on Trump's side, is that if we get let Democrats, and don't get me wrong, you and I have conversations about Democrats give out way too much money, and sometimes they give out way too much aid and support to people who may not be as in dire need as it's saying, or they're not using it appropriately, which is usually our argument. But I really do think, and I think could be a pure opinion, that getting rid of some of the firearms that should come out of everybody's hands that's not equipped to really be should be having that kind of stuff is not necessarily a bad thing with our climate. Like, we got to make the glove fit the hand is on. It can't just be a one size fit all. Like right now, we got how many people, how many Proud Boys are stocking up on all that kind of military, our ammo and weaponry, and we just shot ours off during New Year's, and we low on ammo already.
You know what though? Here's the thing: if you ban weapons or ammo, you're gonna hurt the good people. The criminals will always have access to shit because they'll have nothing to lose, and they're always gonna do what they do, which is criminal activity.
Right.
So you're not doing nothing but hurting the honest people on this. You get what I'm saying in the country. That's the wrong way to go about it. That's just like saying I can't give you a pencil because you're gonna stab somebody with it. It's not the weapon, it's the person. You get what I'm saying? Like, and we know mental illness is real. We know that there's a lot of undiagnosed, untreated, underdiagnosed people out here. I don't know what the answer is, but I don't think it's banning. That's just like say take spoons and forks away because they could be used. It's bullshit. You know what I'm saying?
And you know what, I get you, and I think the argument is the same. It's just like the aid that the Democrats give out and money. We can't control who it goes to, and some people really don't need it. It's just like this rule, like you said, if we try and ban the high class weapons, we hurt people, or ammo, whatever it is, we hurt people who, like you and I, should just have a right to bear arms, make sure we can protect ourselves. But it's always going into the wrong hands. Like you said, the criminal minded, the ones who gonna manipulate the system anyway, they're gonna get it regardless. So
they're gonna have it regardless.
With you, I don't know what rule makes sense or not makes sense. I'm just hoping that Biden is willing to have conversation across the aisle, because we got to have these stupid ass parties. To me, they're just dumbass parties. Really, rule for rule, law for law, and what is the greater good for the people that it should be affecting. And we can't say who it's impacting for sure, but that's probably one of the biggest arguments for me is I think Republicans are too conservative on shit that really don't. I mean, you don't got to be conservative on everything. Like, why do we get to choose everything? That's the one thing I think is different. Republicans want to control, and I think Democrats really want to be like, how can we, what does the masses look like sometimes? Maybe we control it in a different way. You got a new star guest coming?
No. The other thing was that we can, so I do believe we need to have choice, but this isn't just, man, I just got a bad, I think it's ebbs and flows. So Republican, Democrat, I think there's an agenda bigger than what's sold to us, first and foremost. So let's get that out, right? So they have a job description just like anybody else has a job description. And they answer to people higher than us, not the American people like it's sold to us, right?
Right.
We're just buying into this little, you vote, you do this shit because that's the American way. But I personally believe that's not how this shit works, okay? So let's start there. Secondly, I think that for us to get where we need to go as a nation, with everything that's going on, with the dollar failing, with us printing more money, getting in more debt, more debt, it's kind of like checks and balances, but now they're going to have to come back, tax the people harder to stop the bleeding, try to get some control on things, but it's going to hurt a lot of people in the meantime.
Yeah.
All right. I just don't trust Joe. I don't know. I don't trust Kamala.
We don't trust Joe bosses. The thing is the same people making the rules on the Democrat and the Republican side. Really, what you just said, right?
Exactly.
So it don't matter who
Exactly.
in the seat.
It doesn't, because if you're doing well, you're doing well, right? And I just, but what I don't want to have happen is see more businesses shut down because of COVID. COVID's a cold, man. I mean, I'm gonna send you something on it, but like, dude, they had the reason it's called COVID-19 because that was the strand that came out in 2019. But if you look at medical records, a regular cold was referred to as COVID back in the day. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just been a great reset, and we talked about that, and that's non partisan. You know, it's been a great reset, and the world's going to look different coming out of this. Things are going to look different. Business is done different. Everything looks different because we got to get everything levelized for everything that needs to happen, right? And you got China buying up millions of acres of our land. They're tearing our country apart from the inside out, and we don't even know. Think of how many Chinese CEOs lead Fortune 500 companies and stuff like this here in our country. You get what I'm saying? Think about where this pandemic came from. China. If you start connecting the dots, man, you like, these motherfuckers are becoming a superpower. They've been chasing us forever, and we're gonna fall to number two or three. You get what I'm saying? So things are changing.
I do agree with you on the discipline of China. Like I do think that they're gonna sneak up on us, and not like they're going to, but they've already really snuck up on us, and it's gonna be, what do you say, lights out, Irene.
Good night, Irene.
Good night, Irene, because I really do. If what is not made in China, that we
Right.
probably need to make that list first, and then talk about. But that's what worries me about our technology. Why do we think when we put China in control of some of this, why do we think that we gonna outsmart that when that's really gonna be our only way out of here? Right now, how many people do you think has $2,000 on hand cash just to be able to get up and go if they have to walk out their door right now?
Less than 50% of Americans.
Now say how many people have $10,000 cash because we studies prove and point to it. If something goes wrong, you need a minimum of $10,000 in cash to be able to pick up and move at a rate that whatever it is, survival rate we can call it.
Less than 20% of Americans.
Period. In cash. Not that you got to go put in a PIN number or go to an ATM. You just you open up your safe in your spot and you get 10,000 to move out. We have to move to that model, is what I think. I think in general, we when the wool is pulled back for real, because we've already started to peek through it and crest through it, and we know we looking at the other side, we see that the money ain't adding up. When it really is pulled back, the plan that we've been focusing on, like we always say, is going to be pure distraction on what the real evolution and point is. Like you got to think about it. People are thinking 10 steps ahead. Like when people who have money get together, the ones that you think rule the world, they're not talking about what we currently talking about. They already talked about that.
They talked about that 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Here's the thing now.
The Simpsons proved that. That's been discussed.
Why have, and Google this, why have every major world economy, leadership, government all resigned? People ain't even talking about that. You got major people in every level of government and that's part of the world economy, the big players. They're stepping down and resigning. You got people buying land like never before. Bill Gates has bought 240 acres of land. Like something big is coming, and we so damn distracted on the bullshit. It's crazy.
Well, we're not. You and I spend much time talking about the fact that in order for, especially for people of color to make gain, you're going to have to own land. It won't even be a question about it. I don't care what you own. If some of it doesn't include land or property, real estate, you don't own anything valuable that can't be taken away from you, like picked up and moved. You know what I'm saying? Like we're going to have land that we can say, this is our property line. This is where there will be no rules made, changed, or amended unless I sign on it. You know what I'm saying? So they've had 400 plus years. And then when I keep saying when we came over to this country, when Black people came over to this country, we didn't get a chance until the fair housing market to even own land until 400 years later of people owning. Why do you think land is so important? Every slave movie you hear, go over to the such and such plantation, go over to the Mason's farm. You know what I mean? Like everybody has land, not us. So, we scraping to be free, but we went to work on people's land, even being free. We have to get to a place where we understand that there has always been value in land. There will always be value in land. And how are we really, whether we focusing on Biden, Harris, whoever else, Trump, the Proud Boys, do you have your affairs and ducks in a row? And I think that's the bigger message is how are you going to be involved in the time, not just be there? You can't just be able to say, I was born during this time, I lived during this moment, and you didn't get involved in the time for real. My biggest thing is, what can I buy? How can I buy it? What makes the most sense? And then how do I keep it multiplied and give it to the next generation for them to keep building? So if Gates bought $240 worth of land, depending on what he's trying to do, he's probably trying to have a Gates amusement park, whatever it is. I agree with you. Pay attention to stuff like that. Why is he buying land? Georgia, pick up that Freedom Project, 90 acres, like buy all that. Get everything you can get. Own it.
I totally agree.
Own it for sure.
Totally agree.
And honestly, regardless, and I know this was today, and let me be very vocal in saying this. Not only was Harris the first Black woman vice president, excuse me, she was the first woman vice president, period. Like there was no woman before her, regardless of
skin. Yeah. And what's so crazy is Joe so old and senile, she probably gonna end up being president.
Who?
Biden's so old and senile, she gonna end up being president.
And what's crazy is this is the first time that most millions of Americans, because Trump still got a following, are gonna be okay with that. Like we knew that going in. His health was a question on the ticket before he even got elected to serve as the Democrat Party elect. We knew that Harris was going to be the one that end up being the one to run it, and people are okay with that. So that to me today was the win. It wasn't about who going to get more financial aid, what gun.
That is true.
Down. You know what I'm saying? Like we got to take those wins. I told my friend earlier, having a conversation, I understand now why my parents used to watch stuff and cry. I understand now why my parents, our elders, aunts, like used to get around the table and talk about really what they were seeing on the news or really watching, because I didn't understand it then. Like, why the hell is my mama crying? Like, she crying about this? Like, what's going on? But now that I watched it today, it almost got overwhelming. Like, it was weird to see her, weird to see Black her. It was weird.
HBC. Okay, let me stop you there. America. And you might not like this. A lot of people don't like it, but I'm gonna call it what it is.
Okay.
When are we going to see a legit, thoroughbred Black person? Barack Obama was Kenyan in Hawaiian or whatever he was, right? Yeah. This lady is Jamaican in whatever, Caucasian, whatever. When are we gonna see Black, like African American Black? We're not ready for that yet. And I don't think we ever will be. Because Kenyans and Jamaicans and everything else that's our color but not African American are deemed a step higher than us or two. Period.
So, and it's always valid. It's an interesting point when you make it, because we always say, the first Black, blah blah blah. The one thing that I do have full confidence in is Kamala didn't walk in that White House, G. Like, didn't nobody look at her like, oh, Jamaican and Asian, not African American Black, when they were having to deal with her. Like, they were dealing with the Black woman. Like, right now, I could look at you and be like, I kind of like he might got some Dominican or something in him, but she ain't walk up saying, here's my resume, here's my, when she getting pulled over by the police, when she got to go in for an interview, when she was trying to become a defense attorney, like they weren't looking to just make sure that she wasn't just Black. She is, to me, in my eyes, had a struggle that most people who are not of color, Hispanic included, had to go through. So I have novice and ownership, her and Obama, because that's different sitting as a colored person. Like, don't get me wrong, are they just African American? I would like to see somebody who really was of a
Michelle Obama's an African American,
African descent, and really from the ground up here do get to it. But I think she made a very good staple to make sure it's possible. And I hope she keeps the staple strong through her 8 years if they get reelected, unless there's somebody stronger to come in and replace her. But through her time here. I hope she makes a good staple, and I hope it's a good story. But I have to give credit to the fact that she is a woman of color. You got to give her credit.
I'm giving credit to she's a woman, and that's good for women.
Yeah.
But she's no Michelle Obama. I'm just not a fan of her.
And fair. Listen, fair. I always say, let's talk about it. I'm here for the talk. Your opinion is your opinion. Listen, the mission was the mission. I'm glad to see her up there. Hopefully we do see somebody that's thoroughbred from grassroots here, like America. Like, you had to step up and be great. And I think it's coming. I think that she cracked the door for show. Somebody gonna hook in and get through it. Because I won't say a lot. We always say we had a lot. We've had women come before for the presidency, for the vice presidency, and they haven't held a candle to her. Like, it just ain't gonna work. Like, you're not that one. And we've also questioned if they had to take over. Would we want to, under Palin? Would we want to have dealt with Palin? Never. I don't even want to deal with Clinton, but never Palin. And I think Harris is the best runner through and through, if I had to give her one. So I got it. I just wanted to make sure it was mentioned and known, like, not just the first Black woman president, the first woman, period. And I keep saying president, I must be talking into futuristic oppositions, I guess, but the first Black woman vice president, but not only just Black woman, just first woman vice president in general. So big ups to her. I did, like, make sure I said out loud too, like, I'm just praying for her family and her safety, because in general, at the end of the day, they not saying, oh, well, because she's Jamaican, I'm gonna let her slide, because I don't think that's what's happening. I don't personally think it.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, honestly, that was a good talk, right? That was the talk itself, and I'm glad that we were able to do it. Per usual, I enjoyed the time we get to spend, this is our boardroom session, and really bring conversation to you that it could be held at a corporate level, it could be corporate structure, it could be just business in general, and we really want to handle business here. Hopefully, you take some good gems away from this conversation, and if nothing else, just mimic the fact that having conversation is going to be powerful for what you're valuing, what you feel like you are holding in your thoughts, what's taking your time, what are you distracted by, things like that. So I'm just hopeful more and more or less that we are, talking to an audience that is willing to think big, think uncommonly, make plays. And at the end of the day, when it's time to meet at the boardroom, they're ready to talk business. So other than that, I am Dr. Classic, and I'm with Mr. Finance. Until next time, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
One day I'll be on top of the world. Yeah, that's just how I feel right now. It feels good. Yeah, it feels good. Yeah, it feels good.
That's what making plays feels like. It feels good. It feels like winning.